Hi everyone, it's Patricia from TarantulaHeaven.com. We have Miss Spidey, my G Rosea, who is doing a happy dance right now. She caught a cockroach an hour ago, and it was her last big one that I had in the colony for her, so it's very juicy, and she is taking her time with it. Last I checked, the thing was still alive while she was biting through it, so I hope it has passed painlessly. And I'm trying not to acknowledge that that's probably not true, but enjoy her dance. Anyway, and before I get started, I should say that if you hear any weird sounds in the background, Hiss, my kitten, has a lot of toys that go off randomly because she's very energetic and she needs a lot of stimulation to get her energy out. So you may hear some toys go off while we're talking. You may also hear her wake up from her nap and start playing with Amazon crinkle paper packaging, which she just discovered she loves. So please ignore all of that. Anyway, so today I want to talk about the impact of global warming on tarantulas. I have been thinking about this a lot, especially like last month when we had, at least in my part of the world, a huge heat wave on the East Coast of the USA. And, you know, I think every year we're kind of like, oh my God, this is the hottest year ever. But I do think that this year it felt different and it came much earlier in the year than expected. I do remember I was walking outside and just like being miserable in the heat, honestly. And I started to think like I feel really bad for the animals or the people who cannot go inside and have air conditioning. And I've just started to think about how lucky I am. And also kind of going down a rabbit hole of like, what is the future of this planet? So I was just like kind of Googling different things for video topics, and I decided to just by chance Google global warming and tarantulas. And I actually did find an article about the tarantula population already having been affected. And this article is from 2021, and I imagine that what was reported in this article is even worse because it's just gotten hotter. So I wanted to share this with you guys. I think that this is a deep consideration that we must take into account for ourselves, our loved ones, the planet, the animals. I know a lot of us are animal lovers and also really do care about the future of many different species, including tarantula species. So I think this is important to talk about. This appeared in the Denver Post, and it was talking about the towns in Colorado where Texas brown tarantulas kind of do a bit of a migration so that they can mate. Usually happens at about September typically, but scientists are now saying that this period of mating may actually be decreasing. It may be getting shorter. And scientists are saying that climate change is one of the reasons that is cutting into the tarantula population and that fewer tarantulas are emerging every single year. So I want to share a direct quote. A research associate at the Denver Museum of Nature of Science said, "It's a noticeable numbers game. If you compare pictures, you can tell there are just fewer males out looking for love." It's not just about tarantulas either. If these tarantulas in southeastern Colorado start dwindling, this just kind of sets off a domino effect. Entomologist Maya Holmes said that the prey will multiply and the predators will starve. Holmes said, "Once we cross that line, we can't go back." Now, it doesn't seem like people are counting tarantulas one by one and tracking them, so we don't have like the precise population data. But Jones said that people who live in that part of Colorado send emails and call in all the time, every year. And these are people who originally, years ago, had trouble driving on roads because they would be, you know, it would be almost unavoidable that you would have to drive over the tarantulas because there were so many. I do have a quote that kind of points this out. So a former colleague of Holmes who is actually the director of Colorado State University's Bug Zoo said that 20 years ago, he would see hundreds of these tarantulas any day during that meeting time. But now, he said, if you drive around all night, you'd maybe see 20 or 30. That is really scary. And so Holmes and Jones are both saying that the shriveling population of tarantulas does indicate that climate change is getting worse in Colorado. The likely biggest contributor to tarantula populations decreasing due to climate change is due to the warming temperatures and less rainfall. So the environment is just less favorable for them. Studies have suggested tarantulas and spiders are very vulnerable to changing temperatures and weather patterns. And Sergio Henriquez, who is the co-chair of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Spider and Scorpion Specialist Group, actually said that those changing weather conditions could actually cause some species of spiders or tarantulas to grow bigger or become more aggressive. There may also be more diseases that impact tarantulas. So diseases that do kill tarantulas may actually survive better in warmer weather. Holmes also talked about how tarantulas' day and night cycles are getting thrown off because of the heat. So what Holmes said was hot days can trigger the arachnids to come out of their burrows too early, which burns their much needed energy reserves. Or they'll emerge too late, leaving them unable to prepare their burrows properly for winter. So there's just so many things that can happen here. Holmes also said, and no water means no plants, and if there's no plants, there's no prey. They can starve, they can die of dehydration. And I know I talk all the time about how important it is to hydrate your tarantulas. With climate change, there are other things that happen as well. So part of global warming has also included things like droughts, fires, and other natural disasters that have been thrown off. And Holmes actually did talk about a very bad fire year and a really bad drought year in 2016, which may have also impacted the population of tarantulas. So this can also really impact the population, especially if tarantulas are dying before they reach sexual maturity. Steve Kiefer, who is also named in this study, he is the district wildlife manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. He actually said he didn't necessarily notice fewer tarantulas, but he did say that they're emerging later in the year and in different locations. So that's another way that climate change is also kind of shifting things around. Kiefer said that these tarantulas would show up around Labor Day and infrequently in late August. Now it's been more like late September and early October, which would coincide with reports of warm weather. So a lot of things are being thrown off. And so climate change is a huge threat to the tarantula population. However, it's not the only one. We have also been cutting into these tarantulas' habitats, and Holmes talked about how the tarantula hobby kind of really exploded a few years ago, and people have been scooping up tarantulas and taking them home, and that was either to keep them as pets or to sell them, usually illegally on the black market. Kiefer said taking tarantulas and keeping them as pets isn't necessarily illegal, but selling them is. If you keep them, the males are not going to live very long, and males are actually the majority of tarantulas that are out in the open. Holmes estimated that if tarantulas did go extinct in that part of Colorado, grasshoppers would multiply incredibly fast and devastate local plant life. So a lot of things would be impacted. The wasps that attack and feed on tarantulas would also die out, and so that would also impact the birds, reptiles, and other mammals to starve. Holmes said that we don't really know exactly how drastic that ripple effect is going to be, but she did say that's the scary thing, we don't know. That's what's terrifying. Oftentimes we don't fully understand these components of the ecosystem until they're gone and we start to see things collapse. Extinction is forever. So I know that's like a very long-winded report, and I will leave the link in the description so that you guys can read it too. But I've really been thinking about climate change for a while, and this summer in particular really kind of was like, this isn't normal for it to be this hot for this long in the year. And there were other parts of the world that were even worse, like India. And I think there's going to be a lot of species, not just tarantulas, but a lot of them that may be severely impacted. It would be great if we could say that, you know, the tarantulas or the animals will adjust. They'll probably just change their mating patterns, or they'll probably just shift the time of the year that they're more active. But we don't know that. I mean, it sounds like there could actually be some other pretty significant consequences that would actually impact the population. So I want to share that with you guys. It's important. It's important that we are also aware that humans are also contributing not only to climate change, but also the other things that threaten the tarantula population, like taking tarantulas illegally out of their environment, and also making changes to their habitat that does not benefit them, just to benefit our own human needs. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about that, and I'll see you next week for Tarantula Tuesday. Take care. Bye.